Episode 8 of Agatha All Along begins with Alice waking up and being told it's time to go. Death awaits her, and after dying protecting someone, her time in this world is done. Lilia is next, and then Rio turns to Agatha. Rio explains that she's had special treatment and she helped take Lady Death's eye off the ball surrounding Billy. You see, what Billy wants on the road is irrelevant, given his brother isn't out there just yet. Death wants to take Billy before Tommy steals someone's soul. Agatha agrees to turn Billy over, but she'll get him to the end of the road first. In exchange for doing so, Agatha wants Lady Death to stop pursuing her and let her live a fulfilling life. Rio agrees to these terms. Billy and Jenny meet up with Agatha after, and then it's time for the next trial. It turns out it's back where they started from again, as their shoes are just there on the ground. Agatha is frazzled and contemplates going round the road once more. Billy, though, puts his shoes on, and in doing so, wakes up in the next trial. Here, Jenny is shocked when she finds out Agatha was the one who bound her. Agatha shrugs it off, claiming she did it a long time, but Jen grabs her hands, repeating the mantra "you hold nothing," until the spell is broken. Just like that, Jen disappears. Agatha uses Billy to channel his thoughts about Tommy, which sees him frazzled and discussing how Tommy drowned. Billy eventually disappears, leaving Agatha alone. She realizes that from death comes life, and thus she tends to soil on the ground and manages to grow a flower. However, the place starts to crumble and collapse. Agatha scrambles for the door and manages to get out, where she finds herself confronted by Lady Death on the roof in Westview, a storm raging in the background. When Agatha rejects Rio, she starts abusing her, hitting Agatha with planks of wood and tying her up. Billy swoops in with his powers and decides to give Agatha some of his. Rio and Agatha fight it out, as the latter then decides to sacrifice herself to save Billy. Only, all of this is a ruse, as Billy willingly goes with her, and Agatha betrays him. I mean, we're following a villain here. Is anyone surprised? Well, the more surprising part here comes from Agatha, who decides to turn back and kiss Death, embracing her death. In doing so, she turns to soil and then flowers, becoming one with the earth. Lady Death lets Billy go, as the sun shines and he walks through Westview alone. He heads back and shifts into his old life. He doesn't know his boyfriend, though, but he does see hints of various witches and spells around his bedroom. It turns out, everything in his room is a hint toward the witches' road, from the houses on the trials, to the shoes, to the witches themselves. It was me, Billy says, as he turns around. He gasps at what he sees. So it now becomes clear that Billy has been entrancing the witches through the witches' road, basically rendering everything we've seen pointless, as it's the old "it was all a dream" trope, again. We had this in WandaVision, and now we have it in Agatha All Along. This time, though, it's even worse because the whole season is basically irrelevant. The show meanders through its scenes with little urgency and these big exposition dumps that are more annoying than anything else. We'll get a scene that will literally tell us what we've just seen, or explain earlier parts of the plot, despite there being a recap at the beginning of every chapter. The story itself has been very predictable, and while people have enjoyed the quirky, campy nature of this, it's a very niche show and the writing has been poor. In fact, the more you dissect what's here, the more holes you end up finding. There's been little character growth, very obvious twists that people will see a mile off, and an unlikable bunch of villains we're apparently supposed to root for in their quest to get more power. Can someone please explain to me why I want to see a bunch of villains craving power make it to the end of the road so they can have more power?